DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Well, it's rumor speculation season. Few teams. Few businesses do drama and rumors and speculation as well as basketball. And I guess we can trace the roots back in, 75 years ago in baseball, they called it the hot stove league. And all the offseason rumors about trades flew around. So we got a bunch of stuff out there about the NBA now, PK. And the one that involves the Utah Jazz that caught your ear, he soon could be, well, I guess he's already the longest tenured Jazz man, right? Because his trade got done before Markkanen's trade by a few weeks. But Walker Kessler and what might be out there as far as interest around the league and interest with the Jazz.
I think Kessler's one of these players that on his own, he's not a superstar, or at least not yet. Maybe he can develop. That'd be awesome if he did. But you put him in a team that has a specific need for his skill set, and he could really, really help a team. There's no question about it, because his skill set is something that teams need. They need a shot blocker. They need a rim protector. They need a rebounder. Every team needs it, right? And that player doesn't need to be necessarily a superstar, but like Jakob Poeltl, I think can do a lot of different things. On his own, he's probably not the first-team All-NBA or any of that stuff, but put him on, like I said yesterday, put him on the Warriors, and wow, I think he would make that team a lot better. And so I don't want to see it sound like Liam Neeson in Taken, but Walker Kessler has a certain set of skills. And if he gets to use them, he will kill you.
So I think that's where it needs to start. You take the personality out briefly. I think this is a question for any of the 30 teams, obviously more so for the Jazz because he's on the Jazz roster right now. But any of the 29 teams that might be thinking about acquiring him. How do you view the defensive-minded pick-and-roll center? I mean, we just saw one of them with Rudy, right? What neither one of these guys did, and what Derek Favors didn't do either, was shoot threes. And it does seem like there are coaches / GMs that are really dedicated to, I'm going to have 5 3-point shooters on the floor, and 1 or 2 of them need to be rim protectors. And this is where positionless basketball gets a lot more real, right? They may not be traditional. Giannis is not a traditional center, but he's a rim protector. So the Bucks have wanted 5 3-point shooters out there. And so they had Lopez. Now, obviously, he's moved on to the Clippers here, and they, went over and took the Pacers apart. But that's not Kessler. And to me, it doesn't look like it's going to be Kessler. I mean, I know he's talked about it, and I know guys older than him have added that, so maybe that'll happen. And, man, if they give up on him and it does happen, then it'll look very good. So they got to be able to figure that out. And they got more info on that than we do. That seems to be a bit – how do they want to play? How does Austin want them to play? Does he like a defensive guy and 4 shooters, or is he someone who demands 5 shooters? Because that philosophical question seems to me like that's the basis of what you decide.
Okay, but if I'm good enough offensively with the other guys, he can help me in an area that he has expertise in.
Oh, yeah, and there are coaches who believe that, and we saw that with Quinn Snyder and Rudy. I mean, Quinn thought he could do it. I don't think that was spin in public. He loved Rudy. He loved what Rudy did at the defensive end, and he thought the other 4 players and Rudy was really good in the pick and roll game. So it's but he didn't need Rudy to be a 3-point shooter to have a really good offense in his mind. Now they never got to the conference final, but you can argue, hey, the Jazz didn't get to the conference final with Stockton Malone right away either. That took a good long while. Yeah,
but the rumor out there that I saw is 2 firsts and a player for Kessler. If Double-A got 2 firsts and a player, and that player is not some...
I was going to say, who are the player and where are the picks?
Well, 2 firsts.
Well, yeah, but if they're picked 20 and 25, I'm not that impressed. If they end up being lottery, if they end up being lottery picks, I'm very impressed.
Right,
but there's a wide range.
Yeah, but the Minnesota pick wasn't, or was it Cleveland, which I think they just used the Minnesota pick, and it wasn't lottery, but they moved up 3 spots and got a player that they really wanted. So that gives you just just because you get that doesn't mean that's exclusively what you get. Then you spin that and you move up. You got 2 picks now.
Yep.
Now you got 8, 9 picks in the next X amount of years. We're already seeing that with Oklahoma City. That's one of their big selling points. Well, sure, they're going to have to pay guys, but they've also got these picks, so they can reload that way. And I don't think you scoff at first round picks. And I get a fifth place spot is better than on 20, at least on paper anyway. But we already saw what they did. They moved up 3 spots this year to get someone else. We'll see what Clayton ends up being. Hopefully he's a great player and fills a real big time need. But if they're excited, at least they were excited about getting him. You don't trade up for somebody that you're not excited for. At the same time, I think they traded up for Trey Burke, and that didn't work. So who's to say, right? We'll find out in the next 3-4 years. That's the fun of it all, is that these guys do, without question, know more than all of us. Whatever I know, Austin Ainge knows 1,000 times more. I have no doubt in saying that. But even when you say that, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the right pick.
No. Well, it wasn't that long ago that, they were holding out for a first for Jordan Clarkson. They thought they could get it. Well, it turned out they couldn't. So just because they think it doesn't mean it's right. Just because they pick a guy doesn't mean he's right. But I get your point that on the surface, getting 2 first-round picks, and a player, and that could be pretty intriguing. Tell me who the player is, obviously.
Yeah.
But assuming that it's a starting – I would think they'd be looking for someone who they think within a year is a starting quality player under the age of 25. Now, is it better than that? I probably don't want a guy older than that.
Yeah, I understand. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
My biggest concern, if they were to move Kessler, is he's the one guy on the roster, or the only guy on the roster, who gives you what he can give you. And you look at the rest of the roster, right? Right now, they've got options. You want wing players, tall wing players who are athletic? I can give you Bailey. I can give you Hendricks. I can give you Williams. Now, I don't know if those guys are going to pan out, but I've got options there to see. And just by dumb luck, 1 or 2 of those guys are going to pan out. They have to, right? Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing at the guard line. They've got 3-4 guys. Well, if you get rid of Kessler, you have nobody at center who can give you what you're looking at. Nurkic is older, so I don't think he's going to be there in 3 to 4 years.
He's going to be there in 2.
Right.
We'll see if he makes it through this one.
Right. So that's the one thing that would concern me about moving Kessler, is then you got to go out and get somebody like him, and you already have him. Whereas if you traded Keontae George, well, I got 2-3 other guys that I can give opportunities to, so at least I have the possibility of filling those needs. You create a void if you get rid of Kessler that you don't have right now. But if the offer is so overwhelming, well, then you got to take it.
Well, it goes back. We were talking about this with David Locke, probably a couple months ago, and I remember him saying, "Well, if you move Kessler, you have to go find another Kessler, because you got to have somebody like that, and you don't." Filipowski is a big guy, but he just doesn't move like that. He's not that long. He's just, that's just not happening. Not
right,
to
we
that
understand
degree.
that.
No way.
Right.
So they got to go find somebody else. So that does seem like a setback. Now, conversely, they're so far away that if you have one piece you can move and you can get 2 or 3 pieces, because otherwise it's sitting here adding one guy at a time, and how long is it going to take?
Yeah, but they haven't been adding. They've been adding 3 at a time.
If they hit on all 3, you're right.
Well, they're not, but just dumb luck. They should hit on some of them.
And there's other ways to add guys. You can find your, Royce O'Neal undrafted, your Joe Ingles undrafted. Not everybody has to come in through the draft. There are people playing basketball all over the world who can contribute in the NBA. So there's other places. But there aren't a lot of places to find a 7-footer who's as long and athletic and moves as well as Kessler does.
Right.
And that catches everybody's eye. And I know somebody who talked to Steve Kerr when they were here the first time, and he saw him in person for the first time. Obviously, he knew about him, but he's like, well, he's going to be good. Those guys just know.
Yeah.
But I do think philosophically, man, if you really want 5 3-point shooters, and if that's what you've got to do to be an elite team and to be a championship contender and to win a champion, and you really believe in that, then you probably should be looking for that kind of trade for Walker, because I don't think he's going to turn into that.
What team has 5 3-point shooters?
I mean, I think Milwaukee did when they won it.
Right.
I mean, so if you're trying to build that team, you're not going to build him.
You don't need that.
And if you come to that conclusion, then my desire to trade him goes way down. If that's what Austin is thinking.
Indiana didn't have it. OKC doesn't have it.
Well, you may think you have it and you don't have it. Now we get into the weeds a little more.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, you think you've got a 3-point shooter, and then you get to the finals and he shoots 25% from 3. So you didn't have him when you need him. I mean, Turner really struggled.
He's not a 3-point shooter. I don't think so.
He shot 39% from 3. And he was taking 5 a game this year. 5.5, actually. So I think they think they have him.
He didn't do it when it mattered.
Exactly. And that's what I was just saying. You think you've got him, but then you're in the finals and they just aren't going in.
And then they didn't want to pay him the money, so he left.
Yep.
They told us that they didn't value him. Yep. I don't need to tell you him. I don't need to say it. They told us.
Well, would they have valued him if they weren't going into the luxury tax, or are they just another one of these teams? And I think that's really hampering the rebuild here. I think it's hampered their play in the last 3 years, is that owners are drawing absolute lines about, depending on the club, about luxury tax, first apron, and certainly the second apron. Like, I'm not writing that check. And so,
Is Hatback going to run out of money here?
Guys,
you need to get a GoFundMe?
No, I don't. I don't think any of these owners are going to run out of money, but nonetheless, they don't want to spend it.
I don't know. I don't know who the owners of the Pacers are, so I have no idea. All I know is this one. That's all I care about. I couldn't tell you that the owner of the Pacers could walk in the room right now, and I'd have no clue. I don't even know the person's name. No idea. And I don't want to know. I'm worried about the Jazz, not the Pacers. So that's where I make my money, is talking about the Jazz. I don't think the rebuild has been hampered by the Jazz's unwillingness to spend money.
No, I think it's been hampered by other teams' unwillingness to take on the salaries of Jazz players. I don't think the thing that's limited trading John Collins is his talent. I think the thing that's limited trading him is his salary and how it fits into other people's budgets.
Yeah, but that's every team in the league.
And that's true. And I think that's why he's still here. And I think that's why Clarkson was here certainly 2 years longer than he needed to be. You'd probably argue 3.
Yeah, and that's why, they got rid of Mitchell and Gobert. That's part of the deal. That's never going to end. Of course that's the case. They were paying him too much money, and they didn't have the flexibility, and they didn't think they were good enough. I get it. So that's why we're in this situation that we're in. If they were making $10 million a year, it'd be another story.
Well, they're about to decide whether they have to pay Kessler. So if you're going to move him,
well, they're not deciding this summer. They're not going to re-sign him. They're going to let him go and be a restricted free agent, and then they're, as you would say, kicking it down the road. So they've already made that decision. I can tell you that.
We're moving into Gordon Hayward territory, people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Same plan.
Yeah. And then Gordon got his feelings hurt because he thought he was a big-time player, and big-time players aren't treated like that. The only problem was you weren't a big-time player. You're a very good player. I'm not denigrating his talent by any stretch, but he thought he was all-world because he put Butler on his back and got to the Final Four. And, yeah, okay, you're really good. Hayward was really good, but he wasn't that type of player. So the Jazz, I thought they treated him fine. He got his money, but he got offended. And then when it was time to leave, he left. And he went chasing the biggest stars because he thought he was among the biggest stars. He wasn't. And I think Kessler will have a little more common sense in this situation.
I would think you're right. I don't think Kessler. Yeah, I think he's probably wired a little different. I definitely think he views himself differently.
Yeah. So he'll get his money. Kessler just needs to put his head down. He knows this. Put his head down and go to work, man. And do what you need to do, and you'll get that offer.
Well,
that'll come.
Yeah. Just keep doing what got him from where he was his first year to where he is now.
Yeah.
Just keep that arc.
Although the arc, yeah, exactly, because expectations go up.
Yep.
You don't plateau at this age. Something's wrong if
if
plateau.
if he does develop a 3 to any level, then moving him that gets a lot harder for me to swallow. Not that they care what I think or they care how I feel about the move, but I'd be like, well, what are you moving him for? At that point he becomes. I mean, what more do you want from him at that point?
Unless it's just a killer deal.
Yeah, getting back to who the team is, what the picks are. You know, some teams' unprotected picks are awfully tempting, especially if they're in the next draft. So you hear 2 firsts, and they're not all created equal.
They only have one unavailable, non-tradable under any circumstance player, and that's A.J. DeBonsa.
They don't have him, PK.
Oh, you just wait. You just wait.
Yeah, now you're talking. That's what you did with Cooper Flagg. How'd that work out?
That was a long shot. That was a long shot, man. It was a 1 in 87 chance. They drafted where they're supposed to. This is going forward. You don't know where it's going to be. And a kid, if Ace Bailey can finagle where he doesn't want to go, you don't think A.J. DeBonsa? This kid already loves Utah. My goodness gracious. He's the Grand Marshal at the parade tomorrow, isn't he? Or is that later on in the month? I forget.
All right. PK the Hype Machine.